around generating business on social. So every single month or every other month, should I say, I update this presentation with up-to-date info in terms of what we're doing right now, purely because if you stay stagnant on these platforms, you're really, really going to struggle to be able to generate, one, the engagement that you need, two, then the actual conversations that you need to start, and then three, really focusing in on how do you generate the sales conversations that you're looking for. When I say on social there, I'm going to have a focus in on LinkedIn, but this technically applies to every platform. So I work on every single social media platform apart from TikTok. I'm even started to dabble again with Twitter or X, depending on how you use it. But each of these platforms has opportunity. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about the nitty gritty of any other platform apart from LinkedIn today. I will touch on YouTube a little bit. But the importance really is in following the process that I'm going to share with you. And when I was putting this specific workshop together, I had the same kind of aims that I do with every workshop that I run. And it's mainly for, number one, to give you as much guidance as I can in the hour that we've got together. I'm going to answer any questions that you've got, and I will spend 5 minutes talking to you a little bit about how you can work further with us. So that's the reason why I run them. I want to introduce you to the ways that we do things differently. And again, with that, there's some practical steps that you can take as well. Now, just so you know, the stuff that I'm going to be talking to you about today is really being built off the back of all the different conversations that I have with people. So I will typically have between 15 to 20 conversations a week at this current point in time. And that is a variety and a mixture of people that are clients, so customers, but also because of my YouTube channel, because of the size of our email list now, I offer out free strategy calls to people. So as part of the wonders that we do at Pipeline 44, a lot of it is around just getting people back on the right line. And a lot of the stuff that I've taken from today comes from those conversations. And what I want to share with you are the biggest reasons why I see people struggling online right now. Now, there's 5 real common ones which repeat themselves and haven't changed for about a year now. It's for every single time that I've been doing this, these reasons keep coming up. And what I want you to do, if possible, as I reveal each one of the 5, I want you to have a think about as to whether it resonates with you or not. And if it does, I just want you to put the number into the chat box. No one else will see it, but just so I know the areas to really focus in on throughout today's session. Now, the first one is not something that people really focus in on too much online. And I think it's a real big mistake, but it's the fact that what they're selling, so what they're putting out there online, whether that's from a product point of view or in terms of the actual content they're sharing, the stuff they're putting out there with doesn't actually align in terms of people don't care enough about it. And therefore what happens is you end up being scrolled past, and therefore you struggle to build the credibility that you need to be able to generate an inquiry. Lots of people talk about inbound and outbound leads, right? It's very, very well known on social. Most people want loads of inbound leads coming in. Well, that's never going to happen unless what you're actually sharing is relevant and interesting. And that's actually a lot easier said than done. And so there's some technical bits today that I'm going to share with you to cover that off. Number 2 is quite a harsh one, I guess, to admit for some people, but this was my big problem at the beginning when I started to use social with no real idea as to what I was doing, but I wasn't worth following in the first place. So the content that I was sharing, I got ignored a lot. It got scrolled past quite a lot. The photos that I was sharing was basically copying other people, hoping that it was going to work. And what happened was that where I see loads of other people getting great results from social, I didn't feel like I was, and I felt like I kind of was wasting my time a bit. And that was purely because the stuff that I was putting out there, even though I thought it was helpful, it wasn't even being seen. So what you've got to understand is how to play this online game. So first off, you can be seen to then become remembered. And then when you get remembered, you can start to implement this process, which actually drives people to see the best version of you. I know that can sound a little bit silly, but it's really, really important. Number 3 is the one that people most relate to. It's the one that I find a lot. People always come to me and say, Chris, look, I know what I've got is good, but I just don't have enough people in my audience to be able to see it. This is the one which makes the biggest difference to people in the short term to get the spike. And when it comes to building an audience online, again, there are some tactics that we apply, which means we're able to grow at speed. most people kind of plod along on this platform. They're either sending connection requests and hoping for the best. They're posting content in the hope that someone's going to follow them. And they end up just, again, growing at a speed that doesn't allow them to fill a pipeline. Number 4 is that the majority of the work that you're doing is what you're told to do. So you're told to post, you're told to network, you're told to engage on a newsfeed, you're even told to send messages. But actually, it's not connected to anything at a back end. So it's okay being active on these social media platforms. But what I find most people struggle with is the fact that they try to sell on social rather than taking people off platform and then having a process which is predictable and sustainable that leads to consistent conversion. And that kind of links then, I guess, into number 5, where the strategy that you're deploying, if you believe you have one, and I don't mean to sound like an absolute moron saying that, I'm just going to be completely honest with you today, but the strategy that you have is either non-existent or just based on the hope of, if I keep doing this just for long enough, if I remain consistent, like all these people say on the internet is the only thing I need to do, then eventually it will happen. I want to give you the first truth today. If you're not generating business online right now and you've been doing it for longer than a month, consistency is not your issue. Okay, that is not the issue. You are doing something fundamentally wrong, which is stopping people from actually starting a conversation with you. When you get this right, people see results within days, it's not months. People like to say it takes you years or months to be able to do this, so you stay with them for longer. This stuff for us happens very quickly when you get a process in place that's predictable, sustainable, and you have a strategy that's going to convert. So with that in mind, could you just let me know, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, which ones most relate to you right now, just so I can kind of see where to spend the most amount of time. So we've got a few 3s popping through. The 4s are coming through, actually a lot more than normal, actually. That's fair enough. Good. I'd like to see that. That's good. My favorite bit, probably the bit that you'll find a bit boring, the majority of you. It's my favorite bit. 3 and 4, we've got another few 4s coming through, and actually a few people saying 5 as well. That's great. That's really good to see. And so with that, the good news is that today I'm going to be sharing elements of all of 5 of those. So this is the framework in which we've really dived deep into social for. What lots of people spend the majority of their time doing is spending all their time in the connection phase. So it's all around building an audience and trying to get loads of engagement so people then eventually will come to you. This whole framework here, when you get all of it end to end, is where you get the real benefits of social media. That's just a matter of fact. And what I'm going to share with you today are those 3 areas in quite a lot of detail. So clarity, connection, and conversion. I will touch on control and I will touch on content because it does play an important part, but I'm not going to touch too much on close right now. I have another workshop that I run specifically on closing, but the main 3 today are going to be clarity, connection, and conversion with elements of control and content. Now, I don't spend any time really talking about me because I know deep down you really don't care. But just so you know, I'm not some randomer on the internet. The words are there for you to read on the screen. Everything that I share online is backed up with evidence. So you can go and see the recommendations, you can see the reviews, you can see the screenshots. Like, I'm not here trying to preach anything to you. I'm just trying to share with you what works for us, with the hope of, if you really do struggle with it and you need some accountability and guidance, that you'll come and work with us. However, there is enough here for you today to be able to understand what you need to do differently to start seeing a shift. And if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn already, my biggest call to action with everything that I do is getting you to connect with me on social so I can see the work that you do and you can see the work that I do. So if you're not connected with me, if you scan that QR code on your phone, so you open up your camera, scan the QR code, it will take you to my profile. What I request that you do is press the 3 dots and actually connect with me. Don't just follow me. If you follow me, I'm not going to get the ability to see your content. And what I do every week, every couple of weeks, is I'll look at the people that have connected with me and I'll spend around about half an hour just looking at a few people's profiles and I'll send you some feedback. So if you want that sort of service just for free, no strings, I'll just give you some advice. It's something that I do because someone did it for me when I first started. All you got to do is connect with me and just drop me a message with the word profile in. If you'd said profile, I'll add you to the list and then I'm working through the list. It would normally take me around about 2 weeks to a month to get back to you. I'll be realistic. Loads of people pile into my inbox. But it's something that I offer on every workshop that I do as a bit of a thank you for showing up today. So before I get into the deep dive of the content in this presentation, I think it's really important to have the context and set the scene as to why I think that social is such an effective place to sell. Now, it's quite ironic because I'm going to completely destroy the statement that I've just said there throughout this presentation, because you shouldn't use social to directly sell. However, what I want to make sure I do is make sure I give you the A to Z of what you need to be doing. So from what I see, and this was me around about 3 and a bit years ago, most people waste way too much time online. And they just hope that eventually it will happen. They start using social because someone on the internet has told them, or someone at a networking event has told them, or their son, daughter, brother, sister has told them that it's a good place to generate business. Now, here is a fact, and you can take this one with you for free. The more people that know who you are, the more opportunity is going to come your way if you demonstrate how good you are. Now, for me, what I see lots of people doing is not showing off the best version of themselves, and therefore they do themselves a disservice, and in some cases push people away. When I review accounts, like I've just said to you there, I will review a few of your accounts over the coming weeks. I notice that lots of people are active on these platforms in terms of they might be posting some content, like commenting on some posts, sending some messages, but a lot of the things that they're doing is inefficient. One example is engaging with people in engagement groups. Okay, so some of you might be doing this, and I'm not trying to call you out. However, if in those engagement groups, those people are not potential customers, the comments that you're leaving, they may help give you a little bit of reach. But the problem is, if it's the same people commenting on the same content, you're only just wasting your time after about a month of doing it, purely because your content is only going to be seen by the people inside that group. It's just the way the algorithm works. And so what I see people doing all the time is sharing stuff that's actually not doing them any benefit or any good whatsoever. And so when you switch your mindset and start showing up in the right way, what I believe and what I see are results where I don't even need to post every single day to get results anymore. I send my messages. I put 3 posts a week out there typically. Sometimes I fall short of that. But actually, like, the results when you play the game properly are incredible. And you can see that was just a screenshot that I took of my account. That's like 11,000 followers I had then. I now have 16,000. So it's a little while ago now. But I don't think people appreciate enough the ability to be able to get in front of your target market for free. And I'm going to share a stat with you in a second that will kind of open a lot of people's eyes to it. The reality of the situation is that since the pandemic, since COVID, more people are online now than there ever has been. And that number is only increasing. It's not ever going down. And if your engagement is low, and let me know in the chat, by the way, recently, over the last month or so, have you seen a bit of a drop in overall engagement on the platform in terms of what you used to get versus what you get now? Have you seen a drop in engagement? A lot of you are coming in straight away with a yes, because there's more users posting. So if you think about it, these algorithms and the way that they work, they will share content as it comes onto the platform, right? So if there's more people posting, if you pick up your phone and start scrolling, you probably get past 15 pieces of content max. If your piece of content isn't in that top 15 on a news feed, it's not going to be seen. And so what we need to really focus in on is, how do you get seen? How do you get into the top 15 section? Because that's where the value of it is. And if you're not getting that level of engagement, unfortunately, you're going to be missing out, because again, there's a way of playing this and getting it right. And when you do, that's when you'll get the inquiries. That's when you get inbound. Now, I don't rely on inbound whatsoever. This isn't an inbound approach that you're going through and experiencing now. It's very much outbound, right? But the tools that the platforms give you is the final big reason. These are free, by the way, something that I don't think most people even know are there, but I'm going to give you one of them. Like, LinkedIn events are a huge, huge lead generation tool. Content, not really, but LinkedIn events specifically give you the ability to drive people to a place where you can start to collect their information. And so when I started running these LinkedIn events, we didn't realize the power of them. But this is a big part of our business now, right? We use events to collect new traffic, and they generated us over 11,000 leads now. And that's for free. Okay, yes, time has got to be put in, but in terms of just clicking buttons, it's not exactly difficult. And people still, I don't think, actually understand this opportunity enough. If I wanted 11,000 leads, and we run paid advertising as part of our campaigns, right? It's something that we do as a bit of a bolt on now. It converts consistently. But if you look at the data behind Facebook right now, like that 11,000 leads, that's registrations onto a Zoom. That's what I classify as a lead when I get the data. It's 100 grand that would have cost. We got it for free. And you can see an example there from my business partner, Sam. That's our record so far, 1,020 people saying yes. Now, that's not 1,020 people's email addresses. We typically get 50% of that. So a lot of people will say yes to events and then not show up. That's just a fact. But this is my personal record, 843. Some of you might have even got better than that. I don't proclaim to be a LinkedIn expert. That's not me. My job is how do I move people from social, any platform whatsoever, and drive them as quickly as possible to a place where I can start actually nurturing them properly. To show you the Facebook ads data there, for the registration on Zoom, typically it was costing us around £9.16. That's where that £100,000 comes from. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're running a profitable Facebook ad campaign, it's barely a drop in the ocean, £9 a lead. If you can get a customer to be converted at under 200 quid and your product is more than £200, then you've got a license to print money. The issue is that the ads fatigue. LinkedIn events, when you set a new one up, you get a whole new set of invites that you can use. And that's just one tool that LinkedIn specifically gives you to drive traffic. And so I hope that adds a little bit of context into why I believe so much in these platforms. Does that all make sense so far? If you've got any questions, put it in the Q&A section. But does that all make sense in terms of why I see it as such an opportunity right now? That's good. Fantastic stuff. Great stuff. So with part one, the information that I'm going to share with you is actually around how do you stand out and stay relevant. Because I think lots of people, when it comes to their brands, don't move fast enough. They plan too far in advance and don't have the ability to pivot enough. And unfortunately, most people using this platform set themselves up to fail because they're unclear on their product, their audience, and their message. Three big things that we spend lots of time on with every customer that we ever work with. Now, with your product and offer, I'm not going to spend too long on this, but it's something you really need to look into in a lot of detail if you're struggling to sell online right now. What I find is that most people spend too long selling their time for money. Now, at the beginning, that's totally okay. But the problem is people sell their time for money for too long and get too busy. And therefore, their marketing and sales efforts have to take a drop to be able to compensate for the amount of work that needs to be done. What you need to do is find a way to be able to balance that. And therefore, what I need you to think about is how you frame what it is that you're selling and how you can deliver an outcome that your audience want, that you can consistently do over and over again without becoming too busy that you have to sacrifice in certain areas. I hope that makes sense. It made sense in my head, but if it doesn't, just give me a what do you mean, Chris, in the chat, and I'll go into a bit more detail. But the brass tacks of it, and this example that I'm going to give you in a second should really open your eyes to it. You've got to be framing what it is that you sell, whether it's your product or the offer that you package together, to a point where people are looking at it going, that makes so much sense. I totally understand what it is you're selling. I need it. How do I buy it? Like, that's the kind of nurturing process that you need to take people through. And the best way that I can kind of explain it is by sharing an example with you. So back in 2020, you can see this was pre-COVID, I think. Yeah, it was just before it. I used to run Instagram masterclasses. So Instagram was a platform that I used to teach on. I don't do as much of it anymore. However, I still do use the platform and I answer questions on it. But I used to do a 2-day Instagram masterclass. And I tell you, it used to be really difficult to sell. Now, the reason being is because no one really wanted to sit in a room, and I didn't know this at the time. It took me a little bit of time to realize it. No one really wanted to sit in a room and talk about Instagram for 2 days. They wanted to get the information really quickly, know how to use it, and know how to make money from it. That was all it was. It's the same thing with LinkedIn. You don't really care about a deep dive of LinkedIn. All you want to know is how do I spend as little time on it as possible to actually pay my bills and build a business on it. That's it. And I realized that, and actually I was forced to realize it when COVID hit, because I couldn't teach people in rooms like that anymore. I had to move online. And so I used to flog away, making sure I sell a £500 ticket to pay for the room, to fill it with 8 people. And then with that, I'd make a couple of grand. That was kind of how it worked. And when that whole pandemic hit, I had to make the shift. Now, I went from having an Instagram 2-day masterclass to having a how to gain 1,000 followers in 30-day challenge. Now, even without me sharing with you the results, can you see the difference? Even though the content inside of the programs, 2 days and 30 days, was exactly the same, can you see how this shift from an Instagram bog standard 2-day masterclass changed to a how to gain 1,000 followers in 30 days? Can you see how that suddenly, in March 2020, automatically became more desirable for people to buy? Outcome-based is what Michelle has said. For me, this is one of the biggest problems that most people have. They're selling coaching with me, a one-to-one session with me. And the problem is people don't understand or know you well enough, especially if you're selling to cold traffic, to be able to make that decision. And so what we have to do is sit back and go, okay, well, what outcomes can we specifically deliver for someone? How are we going to be able to consistently deliver it? And then what we then do is take that message out to market. And the incredible thing was when I then switched this program, I reduced it from 500 quid to 300 quid. So it was £10 a day was the way it was framed. I ran a webinar like this, and I genuinely, my mind was blown the month afterwards. So I did a month of activity. So March, and then in April, I sold it. I'd never made that much money, like ever, in one launch. It blew my mind how quickly it happened. But it was because I aligned an offer with something that people really wanted, with an audience that understood it. And this is the stuff that people don't spend enough time on at the beginning. And it's the same thing pretty much with all of the customers that we work with. Sasha is an example. I'm not going to spend hours on this whatsoever. The example speaks for itself, right? But Sasha was a virtual assistant, an executive assistant that used to package her services by the hour, which basically led to consistent price battles. What we had to do was frame her offer in a way that enabled her to become a specialist in an area and package a service up which actually answered the problems, or should I say, the questions that people had. And when she got that right, she switched to the retainer-based model. We got her in the right room, so she started putting the offer in front of the right people. That's where her business started to really, really grow. And that was just a simple message that was sent following it in terms of how quickly this works. A simple change in your product and offer should happen pretty much instantly if you've started to build an audience for a month or a couple of months. The issue most people have is that their offer doesn't speak the right language. And that then moves really on to understanding your audience, because if you don't get this bit right, this is where, again, lots of people fall short. Most people, said it at the beginning, don't have a big enough audience. You're not growing your network fast enough. And when I say fast enough, I mean, you're not hitting 500 new connections every single month. And actually what I find is that most people don't even know who is the best person to connect with. So as an example, if you are a consultant right now that maybe deals with an IT department, so you're an IT consultant, you're not too sure whether it's best to connect with an IT director, a technology director, a chief innovation officer, or an MD or a chief exec. And therefore what happens is that your messages are confused and you don't make a decision, and either you don't build your network or you connect with the wrong person. What you need to understand is how do you identify the opportunity where you're going to get the quickest wins initially to get the spike, and then the long-term sustainable wins over time, which may, again, require a pivot and a change. But how do you know when to make that change? Again, it all comes from the data when you look at it closely enough. And so when it comes to audience building, I just say to people, there's 3 things that you can do. One is go out there and max out your connection requests. I'm going to talk to you about that in a bit more detail shortly. The second is collaborate. Get yourself out there to events and start working with people. Now, I do podcast interviews. I've got a YouTube channel that I interview other people on. I'm out there speaking at events. I'm doing all the stuff that I need to position myself as a thought leader, which makes my business life a lot easier. I then create content that shares that journey along the way. And again, an example for you here for someone to follow is actually my business partner, Nick. Now, some of you may have heard of Nick, maybe following Nick already. If so, you may have seen the journey that he's been on. But Nick, only a year and a bit ago now, started using social properly. He had an average network size of, I think, around about 5,000 people. And with that, he was posting this sort of content. Now, if you're using social, just give me a yes in the chat. Who's been guilty of in the past of posting graphics like that? Just give me a yes. Don't be honest with me. It's something that I've done. It's something that loads of people do, but it's the cheat code to what lots of people will sell you as a content package, but it gets you absolutely nothing in terms of performance. 20 reactions, 4 comments. And what we did with Nick is we went, right, if you want to start building a personal brand for yourself and start to attract the traffic so you can actually acquire customers, which again, now Nick's been building his audience for around about a year and a bit. He's got his own workshop that he's running next week just to give back some more information to people. But he's been building that up in the background, and we started to put out content which really connected with his target market, which really connected with his audience. 144 reactions, 56 comments, not bad. But again, it continued to grow. 211 reactions, 86 comments. Can you see there's something that's quite controversial there? Can you see why that sort of post did well? What's the one thing that stands out to you about that piece of content which would have actually triggered it to do pretty well? Just give me something, give me an answer in the chat. Let me see whether you've got kind of the eye for this sort of stuff right now. In about 30 seconds, I'll give it to you. So Sean's got the swear word. Yes, to be fair, a little bit. Like the headline is the answer there that I'm after, right? The headline's the thing that we're looking for. People do not spend enough time on their headlines. And this for me is where, again, they may create great content. But unless you can hook someone right at the beginning, you may as well not put it out there in the first place. And this was that growth curve that you can see, 4,700 connections. He's now at over 17,000. You can see this was only in June 2022. So just over a year, he has gone up by around about 12,000 connections. Not bad, right? And again, with that, it continues to grow week on week, month on month, because again, we're creating the right content, which I'll share with you in a second. And we're also building our networks up in the right way. But the big thing that everyone needs to do is understand what it is they need to communicate on this platform to start standing out. When it comes to content creation, most people default to adding loads of value. Now, let me know if you've ever been given that advice before. When it comes to content creation, just add loads of value. The issue with that is actually people aren't on this platform typically to learn. We're on this platform, right? Let's be really truthful here. We're on this platform for one of two reasons. One, to generate business for ourselves. Some people will mirror that as, I'm here to build relationships, right? That's fair enough. That's why I'm on it. Number two is because we're bored. We're pointlessly scrolling, spending hours and hours of our lives on the internet trying to find something else better to do. That is the truth. And therefore, learning, if you want to learn something, you go to YouTube, right? I mean, maybe it's just me. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If I want to learn something, I'll go to YouTube and search for it, or Google to search for it. On LinkedIn, I'm on to generate business for myself, or because I'm bored. And therefore, you need to understand that to be able to generate your engagement. And is the reason why with Nick's content there, it performed so well. Nick wasn't sharing technical information. Nick was using language, emotive language, which again is a technical skill that you can implement into your content. It doesn't take long at all, really easy to do. But emotive language, which shared the stuff that he was passionate about. When you speak to someone, again, give me a yes if this is something that you agree with. Feel free to disagree with me. But it's so much more interesting hearing from someone, talking to someone that's passionate about what they're doing at that right particular, rather than someone that's sitting back and just quite bored. And therefore, technical information, unless you are on video, like hammering it home, unfortunately, it doesn't cut through the noise. And what happens is you end up blending in, getting ignored, and you miss out on the most important objective that we have when it comes to content. And that is to simply just be someone that people remember. And this is someone that we've been working with for now for, I think, 6 or 7 months, I think it was now. But Nick Holt, who has a business which is based on teaching people SQL. Not the most exciting thing in the world, right? However, if Nick spent all his time talking about SQL, he'd just get ignored. We had to reframe it So again, his content got exposure. And then with that, you can see here, we ended his barren run of no clients. And with that, put out, again, a conversion piece of content which generated business. All of that process I'm going to share with you in a second. But this is something that, again, we speak to everyone about. And on this slide here, there are some things that you need to take note of to do on your own. There is no hiding here. Social media is getting more competitive. So what you need to take a little bit of time to think about is, what are your prospects really engaging with when it comes to their online activity? You can see that by going and clicking onto their LinkedIn profiles, clicking into their activity section, and just seeing where they're engaging. When I started working with Jamie, who is a property investor, he's a property trainer as well, he wanted to launch an educational program. Now, again, this looks at the product and the offer, it looks at the message, and it looks at the audience. All three come hand in hand here. But what we had to work out was, how can we differentiate ourselves from every other person that's out there? And with that came quite a bit of work, a couple of hours work, getting our heads down to identify what was the difference. And we noticed that there was a gap when it came to really, really high value, documented like content, which shared his journey. So he set himself challenges and he put out stories out there for people to really get their teeth into, to follow for a long period of time. And we did that on LinkedIn. We also did that on YouTube. So you can see there, YouTube played a big, big, big part in his overall success, in combination with an outreach campaign on LinkedIn. And with it, the results came with it. But with this, what you need to take the time to do is have a look at what your people are engaging with. And actually, I'm going to be offering like a chance for us to do this together on a call at the end of this session. I'm actually going to give you the link now if you want to book a slot in with me. But what we're going to do on this call is we're going to review kind of like your message right now and work out ways to be able to grab attention. We're then going to review your product and offer, because to me, if that's not correct, we're gonna fall behind. We're going to look at how you're positioning yourself online and some of the changes. Now, these calls are with me. They're not with my team. They're with me. You're going to speak to me on a one-to-one for around about 20 to 30 minutes. And with that, we're going to go through and just create with you an action plan of what you're going to work on. And if you'd like one of those calls, those slots, there's 15 of them. That's the only time I've kind of got available to be able to do it. Once the slots are gone, you'll see they're gone. All you have to do is just, again, if someone could just make sure that that QR code works, sometimes it glitches. If you just scan that QR code, there's a few questions that you need to answer so I can do my research before the session. I'll spend 10 minutes just looking at kind of like your website, your LinkedIn profile. So make sure they're linked properly, otherwise I won't be able to do it. But you'll see there's call availability today, Thursday, and Friday. If none of those times work, just drop me a message. I can maybe able to switch something around for next week, but I'm going to struggle, I'll be honest. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the call times are there. When someone has done that, just check to make sure that QR code works. I will completely move forward. I just want to make sure it is. I mean, I'm going to check it myself. Okay, it's working. Good stuff. Good. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Bashir. Good stuff. So with that, that's there for you. The QR code you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner if you've missed that, because some people are like, you've gone too quickly. But in terms of clarity, there are some top tips for you there, which I'm not going to read out. They're there for you just to screenshot if you want them. But what I really need you to think about here, because a lot of people don't have the confidence in themselves to be able to work out what they need to share online to start generating the attention. You've got to get all your ducks in a row at the beginning and understand why someone should follow you in the first place. When you get really clear, and if you can't figure that out, I will tell you what that is. It doesn't take long to work it out. But then you've got to believe it and you've got to own it and you've got to come at it with 100% commitment and then be open to changing if things don't quite work out right at the beginning. The reality is you're not going to just accidentally stumble on the success with this. It takes graft and it takes being able to change at the right moment, listening to the data and nothing else. That is it. And so that's clarity like summed up for me. Product and offer, audience and message, the three things that you need to get right before you even really touch LinkedIn. When you then come into LinkedIn, what I need you to do is focus in on two specific things. Okay. Number one is build an audience. Number two is then control it. Tian, yes, just so you know, it's pipeline44.com/apply. So what I will do, just quickly whilst I'm on here for you. Some people are saying that the code isn't working, the QR code, because they're on their phone, isn't working. Let me know if that works. That should be right there for you. But we've got to build and control an audience. I'm going to start with building, and then we'll move forward. So to build an audience, there are two things that I focus on, which again, I want to share with you the insights of today. Number one is network building. Now, if you're not getting that symbol on the right-hand side there every single week, you're missing out on opportunity. So every week, my team, me, and all of the people that we work with are challenged to share the screenshot of that weekly invitation limit. It still surprises me today how many people I speak to that don't do this and therefore don't capitalize on the opportunity this gives you. Let me be really clear on it. You can't do this on any other platform. If you're on Instagram, you have to follow people and then hope they follow you back. Right? If you're on Facebook, you have to send a friend request, which is a bit weird if you don't know the person, especially on Facebook. But then they've got to accept the friend request. On Twitter, same thing. Follow, they've got to follow you back. On LinkedIn, it gives you the direct ability to connect with someone. And this is simply one of the main contributing factors of how I've gone from 5,000 connections to 17,000 connections in 12 months. And my big question is do you know specifically who it is that you want to connect with? And then are you carrying out your searches to make sure that you are maxing out your connection limit every single day? If you're not, then this is the virtual kick up the backside to do it, because it's not that hard. And what we do with every Academy member is get them to track exactly where they are day by day, number by number. So we're driving this forward. And you can see how quickly it can go. Jack Snow, 8:51 p.m., May the 3rd, 265. About 4 days later, he was at 304. That's 50 connections generated in 4 days. You can see how that compounds over time, right? And then when you do that, you can then combine that with content, which is where I believe most people go wrong. I've said a lot of truths today. Here's another one. People dedicate lots of time to creating content, and it pains me to watch sometimes. And whether it's through procrastination, thinking about what I should be posting, whether it's through actually creating, typing captions, deleting captions, finding photos, deleting photos, or even trying to work out if hashtags should be something you put on the post. You spend so much time thinking about it. And lots of people treat content as a lead generation tool. So their call to actions are email me, direct message me, give me a call. And all of these call to actions are doing is actually pushing people away. And for me, that mindset of, well, if I post 7 times this week, I'm hoping I'm going to get X amount of leads. That mindset is where people go wrong, especially when it comes to newsfeed content. The moment you realize, and it's like I mentioned before, that very few people are on social to buy anything, that's the moment you can start to take advantage, because your newsfeed content should be used to maximize exposure and your brand. Remove the fact that any piece of content is going to generate you leads. All I need you to do is be known. Become someone that's worth talking to. And you do that by sharing stuff that allows you to stand out. If you do anything else, now again, if you look at this as an example, like a conversion piece of content for me as an example is this webinar. Whenever I promote this webinar on LinkedIn, engagement plummets because no one really cares unless you are prime in the moment wanting to learn. However, when it comes to my life and the stuff that I share, whether it's personal, business, whatever, the stuff that I talk about, I'm passionate about, and I know lots of other people are as well. And my engagement then goes up, and the more engagement I get, the more profile views that I get, the more profile views that I get, the more followers I get, the more followers I get, the more messages I can send, and the more messages I send, the bigger my email list grows, and the bigger my email list grows, the more money we make. That, if you're going to clip anything, is the process that you need to consistently look at. Now, this will be recorded, so you can go back and snip it. I will repeat it at the end if you stay until the end and you want me to repeat that end-to-end process. Just at the end of today, put process in, and I'll revert to everything that you need to track. But when it comes to content, there are 3 types that you need to understand. The first is connection-based content, which I'll share with you in a second. The second is control-based content, which again, I'll share with you in a second. And the third is conversion-based content, which is the third part to today's presentation. They all have their specific roles. And when you know how to utilize each one, that's where your pipeline starts to feel like Donna's did on the right-hand side. You can see there, Donna was getting, you can see 15 hours ago, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but just a tad over 500 mark was my average. Some changes to make sure she focused on connection content, bang, straight up to 7,000. Really simple to do, but people just need to listen and apply the techniques that we're talking about. And when you put conversion piece of content out there, you can see here, I've landed a contract to run 2 masterclasses, 3.5 grand with an organization I did not know even existed. That's just from following the process and posting content that eventually is going to work for you. And that's all I do. I look for exposure. I look for stuff that I'm passionate about. You'll notice that that person in the middle there isn't me. Can anyone see who that is? Give me a comment in the chat box if you know who that is in the middle. I didn't even use a photo of me to be able to get out there with it. Like, I utilize person and topical. Does anyone know it is Tyson Fury? You can see it, right? Did anyone see the Netflix series that came out that with his wife in? That post on there is talking about that Netflix series when it came out. Boom, everyone was talking about it and it spiked. Did it get loads and loads of impressions, right? Not huge, but again, it got me followers because I'm talking about stuff that people relate to. And this is all about understanding how to create content, which is going to grab the attention that you're after. And then the other side to it is basically sharing what I'm doing. So you'll see the top layer of images are the images that I shared when I had my property business. That was the first company that I started, and we had an Airbnb company. I documented the journey from start to finish. At the bottom is when I started my public speaking and consulting journey. Again, all of these played a part. And what I'm looking at doing is sharing how credible I am in my space. I wouldn't be having these images taken if I wasn't actively doing what I say that I do. And Philippa, you are still here, is exactly what you did, right? So we stopped going call to action and we started to really focus in on what's going to disrupt and stand out. Now, Philippa, you have to remind me because I know you're here. Was this about ADHD? Did this have an ADHD focus? I'm pretty sure that it did. But it was very hugely topical in your space of that specific neurodiversity. That was what it was about. So neurodiversity, Philippa put out how, again, you can go and read the post. It's on her profile. I hope it's pinned to her featured section. If it isn't, Philippa, that's your kick to go put it in your featured section. But with this, again, it captured attention because everyone had an opinion on it. Philippa, as a direct result, my followers increased from 7,000 to 7,600 in 5 days. She's just put in the comments. It's at 750,000 impressions now and 5,557 reactions. This stuff isn't a one-off, right? Those messages that come from you starting conversations with people. This sort of exposure comes when you play the game correctly. And getting the combination of all that right, like, changes literally everything. Matt normally attends these days. I got his out of office to say he couldn't attend, but Matt's been a customer. I think he initially went on one of Sam's trainings a couple of years ago, but has never looked back when it comes to LinkedIn. This is the sort of stuff that he posts. You can see here, if you're using the excuse that what you've got to share is boring and no one's interested in it, try being in repairing and refurbishing. Right? If Matt can do it, literally, I think any pretty much industry can. We've done it with accountants, solicitors, with Matt's type of business as well. But it's about understanding how to play the game properly. Matt's profile views are quadruple mine. I get around about 2,500. Matt got 8,000. And I think you should be able to see this message here. I've got a few things covering my screen. But you can see I've taken on 18 new customers. All have come from LinkedIn. All he's looked at doing was following the content approach, being disruptive, sharing the stuff that his business does, and then utilizing the platform to start conversations with people in the right way. This he then shared a few months later. I wanted to share some news and get a bit of an update. Guess where the customer found me for a 1 million plus contract? On LinkedIn. Again, with this stuff, but it's about understanding how do you drive your impressions up. And it's not about going viral, but it's about being seen by the right people. And Matt hadn't even started his outbound approach then, which is the bit that I'm going to talk about now. So building an audience is understanding how to play the content game properly. Network building will get you somewhere, but it won't get you to the heights that fills your pipeline every single month. That you've got to start playing the content game properly. Now, control is about understanding, especially when it comes to the content, it's basically how do you collect data? So it's not about selling online. It's about how do you obtain a data online? And for me, the way that we do this is by driving an outbound approach. So I'm going to share with you my message that I send now that you can print screen and use. For me, what I'm looking to do with every single connection that I have is send a message which drives them to my email list. Simple message like that. You will see YouTube link there, so they may not want my download. So I have a guide that I give away. It's got 100 content ideas in it. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the chat to everyone here, so everyone can when you leave this chat comment, because I need everyone to see this. Just change it to everyone rather than to just hosts and panelists. But I've got a guide that's got 100 content ideas in it. I give it away for free. If you want it, just put the number 100 in the chat box. And what I'll do is I'll get my team to send you a message just with the 100 content ideas guide in. Now, here's the thing. Most people, you should be able to see people in the everyone section seeing 100 coming through. When it comes to lead magnets, most people are giving stuff away for free that isn't useful and people don't want it. That's just a fact. This 100 content ideas guide here, you can all see this as evidence to yourself. People want it. It's a useful tool for people to use. If you're not getting that reaction to your lead magnet, it's the wrong lead magnet and you need to create another angle. It's something that's so important. I get asked this all the time. Chris, I've got all these lead magnets, but I don't get anyone downloading them. That's your fault. And I don't want to, again, sound mean by saying it, but it is. Most people, when it comes to social, do the minimum that they have to do. And therefore, they fall short and wonder why it doesn't work. For me, I'm all in on this. Like everything that I do, I try to do it at the best of my ability. And because I'm doing that and I'm always looking to improve and I'm always holding myself accountable, that's where I focus. Rob, that is. Every time I connect with someone, I've got a slightly different variation now. I need to update that screenshot. I only changed it a few weeks ago. But that's like a variation that I use for years, right? Again, for 3 years. I say years as if I've been doing it for 10. Been doing it for 3 years. That's the message that I've been kind of using with it. Like what I'm looking to do is like drive really high quality tools to people so they join my email list. And when they join my email list, as long as I get enough people to join that every month, every single month without fail, we've done this for the last nearly 2 years now, we have hit our targets. This is just stuff that you need to get in place. And again, you can see here how my messaging works. If you are not getting positive responses, some people are like, is it not spammy? No. When I send my message out, all I get is all done. Thanks. Hello, Chris. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the links. Thanks for the invite. Thanks for the information, Chris. I'm facilitating tomorrow. You can see it. It's positive because what we're sharing is good. But you've got to make sure that you're ticking the right boxes in that regard. Otherwise, again, everything that you're doing is a waste of time. And this is the sort of stuff that we work on in the Academy a lot. So Alison here, people really don't understand the level of work that we do with people, but you can see here, she had 150 LinkedIn registrations. So she ran a webinar campaign. She had only 13 sign up via Zoom. So that was a real struggle. So what I did is I jumped onto a call with Alison and we spoke through on a one-to-one basis, the changes that she needed to make. And she had to redo her webinar with some slightly big amendments to drive people through. She then sent me the replay and I watched it for her. Like I do with everyone, I watch every single person's webinar and give them feedback on it. You can see the level of feedback that I give. It's very specific to what she's doing. And you can see here, thanks for this, Chris. Really appreciate the feedback. Looking forward to trying to make that shift away from teaching and into sharing. And then bang, you can see a couple of days later, a business milestone, 2 new clients at the back of my webinar this week. It's a milestone. It is the first client I've had since not being known or referred, which is what a lot of people struggle with. The majority of their business comes from word of mouth or referrals. Now, that's great if you've got that. But again, it's not something that's in your control. Everything that I'm doing is numbers based. As long as I get 1,000 people to a LinkedIn event, that means on average, I'm going to get 500 email addresses. Those 500 email addresses turn into 250 people showing up on a Zoom. And from the 250 people that register for the Zoom, no, it is 250 people show up on the Zoom. 10% gives us the 25 new clients a month that we're after. It's just numbers. I'm in control of it. All my traffic drives through that process. And that's what happened with Alison. And so with Connection, there's some tips there for you to use. The biggest one really is that 4th one there, the emotions wheel. When it comes to content, that is one of the biggest tools that we use that has a huge, huge positive impact. The emotions wheel is something that you can Google, go and Google it. But what we do is we utilize emotive language that sits on the outside of that wheel, and we input one key emotion, typically a negative emotion, in every headline. If you just do that one thing, you will see a huge shift in the way that your content performs. You can have that one for free. With part 3, and I hope I'm not blowing your mind too much with this, but with part 3, it's around conversion. So we've now built an audience and we've started to take control of it. But then how do we convert it? How do we turn that into money? Well, my job today was never, and I've said I'm going to tell you the truth, and my job today is just that. If you end up hating me because of it, I'm sorry. But here is the fact. If you are using social and not generating leads right now, it's because you're doing stuff that's ineffective and therefore wasting time. If you're creating content with little engagement, it is pretty much a waste of time. If you are running lives or events to no one and getting nobody there and hoping that eventually people will just show up, again, you're doing it wrong. You have to change something. If you are sending messages, whether you're paying for automation software or doing it yourself and getting no responses, you're doing something wrong. If you're receiving comments like, you're amazing at what you do, I absolutely love that workshop or that piece of content, but then they don't convert, again, you're doing something wrong. I have no doubt that if you're on here, you're committed to actually learning this stuff. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be here listening to me waffle on. But you've got to work out where to put your time in. And when I speak with people, it's because you lack that process. Most people post on LinkedIn, send their connection requests, send some messages, and that's where it stops. Like I said at the beginning, it stops at connection. What I need to help you do is build the control and conversion mechanism. So you can see here how this process works. And what I'd love to know from you in the chat box for me, typically people either come from LinkedIn, they either find out about this event from LinkedIn or they find out about it via email. Could you let me know which one you are? Are you LinkedIn or are you email? Just so I can see kind of where we're all switching from here and where we are. So we've got email, LinkedIn. So again, looks like, so you can see the amount of people coming. Again, a lot of people are sending it to hosts and panelists, which is fine, but I can see it. Majority of people today are coming from LinkedIn and a few recommendations and then email, right? So that they're the two. So what I'm doing here, you can see the LinkedIn event is this pink line here that drives people directly to the webinar opt-in. The people that are already on our email list, they've either come from an email magnet, so like the content ideas guide, or they've come from the webinar, driven to the email list, received an email campaign that drives them through to conversion. I've given you the data right that you need to hit, but this is just the process that you follow. Right? It's either email or LinkedIn, driving through to a webinar like this that works. Now, there are a lot of different campaigns that you can run. Webinars I love because they're very, very proactive, and I just need to run one a month. That's it. And the best way to explain how this works and the process works for you to actually identify what you need to change is to show you. So Donna is someone that we've worked with for just over a year now. She's a consultant. And when she started working with us, just like the majority of you, she had elements of this process in place. She'd worked with other marketing people before, but straight away, when we looked at her process, we knew she had to change a few things. Now, with that, with a webinar campaign, just like all the others, we have a process that you follow that we will review with you every step of the way to make sure it's right. But this is kind of like elements of that 6-week process. What we do is we jump on an initial call and we map out this end-to-end process here. And with Donna, she had those 4 things in place. Profile, network building, she was messaging, and she had a lead magnet that no one was going to download. What we had to do was basically fill in those gaps. So we looked at where we could position her in the right rooms. We looked at elements of YouTube that we still haven't got quite sorted yet. We looked at the LinkedIn event work, and we looked at creating a lead magnet that people were going to download, and created a webinar that we're going to give people the opportunity to buy. And you can see the sort of work we work in Slack, for those of you that don't know, but we give her bullet point by bullet point feedback of what she's done well and where she can improve. What you need to do is work out what message needs to go in content, what message needs to go in your email magnets, what message there needs to go in your webinars. Again, this all is just in 6 weeks work, a couple of hours of work a week just to get everything right. Create that webinar, get your email campaign set up, which is really simple and easy to do, high value lead magnet, and then just remove everything else and just commit to this process for the 6 weeks. Just commit to it. And when you do that, you'll then have a converting process in place that you can just repeat month on month. Donna ended up generating 6 grand, not huge amounts of money, but not bad for a few hours work. 3 hours of her workshop was completed. She had 2 calls booked in, generated her 6 grand. She was then able to set a date for her next webinar. And because of the data set that we get, we know how many event invites she had. We know how many people said yes. We know how many emails were obtained. We know her impressions. We know how many people showed up, and we know how many people bought. And with that, that data gives us changes that we need to make at different elements of this process. And you can see here, she had 80 people registered, just below a 50% show up rate at 33. 2 people booked the application call, and those 2 people signed up. You can see November the 11th, which is when we first started working with Donna, it all clicked together. She then ran another and another and another, and again, the calls kept coming in. Donna sent me this, and she's put sorry about the typos at the bottom, right? It was 10 past 10 when she sent me this, but there's some things I want to draw to you. When you're looking at creating this process, like with Donna, she just listened, right? She just listened to the process, which is what most people's problem is. They try to change too much. You just need to follow this process. Like for me, the biggest thing here, she's got a tried and tested process, biggest thing that she got into place. We then worked with her to help her actually close out the people, convert them from the webinar into a sale. And again here, just done everything that we say. Her business went from 50 grand to 150 grand. Again, really nice growth there that's sustainable. And with that, then, like we always try to catch people before they try to change too much. And you can see here, we work one-to-one with people, right? We're jumping onto Zooms and having conversations and driving you forward. And this isn't a one-off. Every single person that we've got over 300 people now in our academy. And the way that we're doing this is giving you the personalized feedback every single day. 7 breakthrough calls booked there from Lorna. Bang, 2 clients signed up. This stuff isn't difficult. It's just following the process. Angela, 160 leads, registrations, right? 18 clicks on the outgoing replay, 2 to 3 inquiries coming off, and when another call booked directly. Angie, first thing to share in this group is the work I've been doing. Just in my first webinar, so far 13 people booked in a call. Again, you can see there at the bottom there, 3 signups, 14 more calls to complete is what Angie said. This is all here. It's just proof that it's there, right? And every single week on a Monday and a Thursday, we come together as a group and we absolutely nail all the stuff where people are going wrong. Training sessions, question and answers, making sure that you're all pushing forward with it. And so with some like top tips for conversion, they're all there for you. But the biggest one is don't guess your way to success. Like you need to start looking at the data and letting the data dictate the decisions that you make. I don't change anything because I feel like it. I change it because the data tells me it's the right time to. And the process is just something that you need to rinse and repeat. And with that being said, like if you're looking to generate leads into your business, you don't need to be spending hundreds of hours online posting loads of content. The majority of you just need a process in place that nurtures properly and then have an audience building plan that you can continuously build. When it comes to this stuff, I have no doubt, like there's loads of you that have booked in your calls already. I have no idea if there's any left or not. But with that, like I just want to give you the opportunity to drive yourself forward here. And with that is I want to explain to you how the academy works. Now, you can't buy this. We will speak to you about it on your call if you've booked one in. We need to make sure that you like us and we like you. Really simple with how this works. But what we've basically done is put together a program which will talk about your product and offer and show you how to package it up properly. We'll then define your message. So we're not going to leave you guessing. We're going to tell you what you need to say. This isn't on you. This is on us to tell you what you need to say to get this working for you. We're going to tell you what campaign you need to run, and then we're going to show you how you build your audience properly and nurture them to the point where they're ready to buy from you. There's no guesswork. Like we will chase you if we don't hear from you. We are like vultures when it comes to that. We need you to do this process if you buy into it. What we're going to do is implement that process into your business. End to end, that's how it looks. Now, don't get too overwhelmed by it, but you can see even at the top there, if you're running a webinar campaign, end to end, we tell you what posts to post and when, so you can actually implement the same process that we do. It's done in that 6-week plan that you can see there. So my job is just to drive you through that 6-week plan. And then with that, the way that the academy works is so simple. You work with us for a year and we work on 6-week sprints. So we run a webinar in 6 weeks if you run a webinar campaign. 6 weeks, we then review it, we then run another one. We review it and we run another one. You literally copy my process. That is it. You then receive personalized one-to-one feedback every step of the way. Now, that could be from me, it could be from my business partners, Nick and Sam, it could be from one of our team, Victoria or Elise. We work together inside of Slack, and we are going to hold you accountable to do this and answer any question that you've got. You get one-to-one calls every time you complete a piece of work within a deadline. So we will set you and agree deadlines that you need to hit to get this process done. We will then have a call booked in the diary to be able to then review that work. Here's the catch. If you don't do your work, you get 3 strikes. If you miss those 3 or you use up your 3 strikes, the calls are gone. There is no slacking here. This is all about delivering on a process. So if you're not ready to do that, this isn't for you. Every week, Mondays and Thursdays, we jump on as a group and we deliver training and an element of mentoring and Q&A. They're all recorded so you can watch them. And you also then get all of our templates as well. So you'll get my presentation templates, you'll get our email templates, you'll get our content templates, you'll get all the processes that you need to follow. And we're going to drive you through to actually use them. And for all of you LinkedIn users out there, we have a very, very in-depth sales nav training that Sam has built behind the scenes. If you want to utilize that, you get that included within this package, so you don't need to buy anything else. All of that one-to-one support, the calls, the training is just 250 quid a month. The VAT is on top. If someone asked, it is. Yes, it's £250 plus the VAT. And with that, you get the one-to-one support and all the training that's there for you to follow. The support, I think I probably undersell it. Like, it's, again, you have your own channel that we work in. We look at your content. We look at your lead magnets. We look at your websites. We look at every webinar you run. We literally look at everything, because if we don't, this doesn't work. We need to give you the direct guidance and feedback to make sure that you're making the changes that you need to make to get results. The feedback you can see, just to back it up, the bullet points that we're doing here is very specific and in detailed. And I do this every single day. The feedback every single time, end to end, looking at certain stuff that people need to change. And with that, as long as you implement that feedback, Lynn, no, the call doesn't cost anything. And with that, it is there to be able to implement and put in place. And subtle changes sometimes make the biggest difference, like we did with AGAR. Again, signed up 2 clients just by looking at a funnel structure. I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about the feedback. It's there. I hope I've showcased to you like that this stuff works. I guess you wouldn't be here and wouldn't be wanting to join if it didn't, I guess. Like, you're going through a webinar campaign right now. It's there everywhere online. You just got to go search our names online. But the 2 biggest things you can see here, Donna's said it, just do what we say. Huge, huge thing. If you're not going to listen, it won't work. Angie then backed that up the same. She didn't used to like running webinars. She now does. Like, I will advise you on practically how to do it, give you the control back. And all you got to do is just listen to us, do as we say, and trust the process. That is it. That is all we need to do. And with that, Angie is flying at the moment, to be fair. Like I say, we're just making some more amendments to our webinar again, because it's just stagnated. And we're now back and doing this properly. And so again, the QR code is there for you. I've done this just over the hour. I have overrun by 3 minutes. If you have any questions, I'm going to take time to go for the Q&A now. I have no idea if there's any of those calls available now or not, but they are there. The slots are there. If you struggle to book one, just drop me a message. It's pipeline44.com/apply. And again, with that, I'm not going to read that out again because you already know how that works. Oh yeah, that's a big thing. For the first 5 of you that join, I do this with every workshop that I run. I like to reward people that actually want to take this seriously and move quickly on it. I'll give you a 30-minute in-depth one-to-one session with me for the first 5 people that actually join on this intake. So I have a monthly, sometimes bi-monthly intake. It depends on like the numbers that we're hitting. But with this, for the first 5 of you that join, we will give you a clarity session as well. And that's with me specifically. So what I'm going to do now, I'm hoping that was helpful for you. I'm just going to have a look through the Q&A and just make sure I've got everything covered. Perfect. That one's all sorted. That's Sarah's one's done. If you've got any questions again, thank you guys. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. How can you promote YouTube videos on LinkedIn without the risk of being closed down from LinkedIn? So Kai, that will never happen. So if you share a YouTube video link, LinkedIn don't mind it. They will just restrict the people that see it. So again, it's about being selective and having a proper plan in place to follow. So you're not just sharing YouTube video links. No problem, guys. Thank you very much. follow and connect with this limit. It's connections. So Alison, back when you were talking about network building, it was 30 connections a day is what I send. That's the request that I send. Will you cover how best to connect? Do you add a message? And so if not, I don't. So in terms of it, yes, we cover how to connect, but I don't send a personalized message at all. It's all specifically like I send connection requests out and I let my profile do the talking. Can you please share with us what you charge for us to work with you? Mary, I'm hoping I've done that now. It's £250 a month plus the VAT. I know that you've done in-person events too. The conversion stats you gave from 1,000 registered for a webinar to 25 new clients. Do you find it gets similar? It's actually higher, Michelle, when I worked in rooms with people. I am, however, a little bit lazy these days. I like doing this from home, so therefore I accept a lower conversion rate, and then we can work through that process. So yeah, I talked about the process, didn't I? I said it was going to work. So there's certain things that I look for when it comes to content. My content is all about impressions. Impressions drive more profile views. More profile views drive more people that either follow or connect with me. I don't care which one. For every person that follows or connects with me, I send them a direct message driving them through to my lead magnet or my YouTube videos. My lead magnet then builds up the amount of people on my email list. On my email list is where I get the majority. Obviously, the LinkedIn event today was stronger, but the majority of people typically come from my email list to join these webinars. Now, what happens is if I get 100 people to register for a webinar, I would typically get 50 of them show up, 50% show up rate. Out of the 50% that show up, I typically then get a 10% conversion as a minimum. So again, that's 5 new clients at just the numbers that I've given you there. So you can see how LinkedIn plays a direct part in this process, but the main functioning part of the lead generation element is the email magnet. Can I get the recording to watch from the start? You can. It will be loaded on YouTube within the next 48 hours to watch. Do you work with startups? Yes, we do work with startups. That's actually, again, a really nice place to be because you've not got any of the bad habits to work with. Sarah, look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Can you join? Yes, you can indeed. You can join, yes. Obviously, if we both agree that it's right for you anyway. Do you provide content strategy as well? Yes, we have to. It's a big part of it. We have to give you the ideas and, again, help you with what to say. Bashir, how does it work for this business and personal coach kind of business? Again, they both work in the same way. You've got a product or a service. It's about how do you package it online to drive people through. Okay. I think we're there. Just in case you've got any questions, then I'll stay on for another like 30 seconds or so. I hope that was helpful. Do you advocate LinkedIn automation for the connection requests? Well, what's a bold question? So I've only been testing automation out for a couple of months now, and my account is totally working okay. I can't advertise that, like, I can't say this to you for certain and everyone should use it because I haven't tried it for long enough yet, Rob, if I'm honest. I am dabbling with it currently to see, because obviously my message is quite generic. It's a copy and paste message with the links on, so it works really well. And again, it gives me data to use. So it's something that I am touching on at the moment, but not advocating just yet because I've not tried it for long enough. I will never tell you to do something that I haven't tested and seen the results for myself. So yeah, just being upfront. Do I advocate it? Kind of. Do you have to run webinars to drive the process? You don't have to. In terms of it, like, webinars are one way out of a few different ways. I love webinars. Not everybody does. There are a number of other ways, whether it comes to an audit, whether it comes to a free one-to-one consultation call. There are lots of ways in which you can do it. Webinars are the most scalable, so I would say. Do you need premium? No. I have done this on every version of LinkedIn.